first, you, Vernon Chan. I mean, I think if people have heard this name before, primarily is for your blogging days, I think, right? So people recognize vernonchan.com as a tech blogger. That's also how I knew you. Before I knew, there are more to Vernon Chan than just a tech blog. So maybe introduce yourself. Who is Vernon Chan and what is Vernon Chan and what is the brand all about, and all the things you do, right? So just to start this off.
Sure. I mean, the interesting thing is that I think I met you in 2013, maybe, through media, through blogging. I think it was like a Maxis event or Hotlink event.
And I think it was the
picture
the social media festival, I think.
Yeah, so I posted this photo I shared this photo in the WhatsApp group, and it was you, Ultimate, me, and another friend, Leo.
I think it's Awesome Fest, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
that was actually the first
music fest.
Yeah, that was actually the first social media festival in Malaysia, right?
Sure.
But I think people in social media now don't even know that happened.
So that was 2013. But going back, I started blogging very early, like 2004. That was when friends read each other's blogs, and that was where you get traffic. Your friends will, I posted today, so come and read my blog. So that's what I did while I was, still a graphic designer in an advertising firm at that time. So by profession, I'm a graphic designer. So 2004, I started blogging for fun, and then while I was still employed, that entrepreneur itch hit me. Although it's not my first company.
But you started blogging first, right?
I started blogging.
You started blogging, and then you had that itch to become an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Right?
So 2006, decided to set up a company. I had some freelance work at that time. I was still attached to another company. Decided to register that. Then joining a business network at that time. It was BNI, and then I decided that this gives me like a good platform for me to take this seriously as a business. So in 2009, I decided to quit my job, register Scratchdisk Creative as a Sendirian Berhad in 2009. But while that happened, I was blogging very actively. Right, I took blogging seriously in 2009 because I said, if I didn't take this seriously today, I'm going to give it up.
Right. So you're still a blogger, but you also started the agency at the same time, right?
Yeah. But people knew me and know me for vernonchan.com because I was so actively in that space, right? In the industry where you see me online, you see me on videos.
Attending press events.
So brands were I was very close to brands because of all these engagements, right? And while that happened, Scratchdisk was still running. So Scratchdisk was run by a couple of my partners. They were still my partners right now. And along the way, being my entrepreneur self, I started a lot of other things as well. There were other companies. I started Level 5, which was like a conglomerate of other companies. We had a web agency, we had an interior design agency, we had another graphic design agency as part of the entire ecosystem.
And you founded that? You brought people
I was
together,
one of the co-founder. And along the way, even started a publishing company because we started a car site. And so we started Scratch Media, which was a publishing arm. And the goal was to start up different IPs in different verticals.
So is that still around, that group?
No longer around because we kind of shut down the car guys to focus back on Scratchdisk along the way. Right? And then along the way...
And now you're selling chickens, right?
There's so many stories, right? There's so many stories.
So but along the story way, about selling chickens now?
No, not yet. Let me go back. So along the way, I co-founded a site called the Hype Geek. And so the idea was that the Hype Geek, we had a chat with the boys from Soy Chin Chow. So, here's another story. People often kind of relate me to Soy Chin Chow, but I'm not one of the co-founders.
So Soy Chin Chow is a media, right? It's a web-based media portal.
It's the number one tech
portal
in Malaysia. I was part of it, but not as a co-founder. So I came in a little bit later. So they're co-founded by these two awesome guys, Alex and Amin. I went in to do PR and sales for them. So we commercialized, grew the team from like this humble 6 that we were at that point. Now it's like probably 20 of them. But I did that for a little while, for 3 years. I brought Hype Geek into the Mindblow group, which is the base company of Search in Chow. There were other sites that were in there. We started a BM site. Along the way, what we were supposed to start up an automotive site. That was the idea. But that didn't happen. We had some learnings and we didn't do that officially. But yeah, then 2019 I decided, okay, let's focus back on Scratchdisk, which is what I did. Right. And then MCO came. Okay. Which was actually good for us. I have another story to tell about that, but maybe another day. And then coming back to chickens, we decided to fund a friend who was actually doing the chicken business. We do smoked chicken actually, smoked meats.
So that's going to be the next venture you're going to launch,
That
right?
is the next venture we're trying to kick it off. We've got the branding done. We've got a production facility up in Bukit Raja right now. So if you're an F&B business, I would love to talk to you because we want to supply. It's purely a B2B business. So we like to supply.
So you're supplying to other F&B
operators. It will be great if it's like a retail chain or F&B franchise. That would be great. But yeah, top quality kind of
interesting
smoked meats.
It's very similar journey to myself actually, right? If you start that whole thing, right? Because actually a lot of people don't know that I used to be a blogger.
You were a blogger. I knew you as a photographer.
2006.
Yeah, I knew you as a photographer.
So actually, I used to blog in like 2005, 2006, much earlier. Actually, my first blog was a manual blog, right? I wasn't on any blogging platform. I used to create a HTML page, hard-coded HTML page, which I'll upload, I'll link it, I'll do the preview on the home page. So you click on it, then because I didn't know, right, there was actually blogging engines where things like, I think that time WordPress was not around yet, right? Yeah. What was the popular one? There was another engine, very popular at the time. Also similar to WordPress.
I think it should be Blogspot from Google.
Okay, Blogspot was the hosted one. Yeah. There was another one where you install in your own server, so similar to WordPress. I forgot the name. It used to be very popular. But before I got onto that, so I was researching all that. And I actually got invited to LiveJournal by a friend because that time LiveJournal was invite only. Yes. Either you pay or I think you have to even buy the invites. So a friend actually bought the invite and then invited me. So that time was like a very elite group of people blogging on LiveJournal. So LiveJournal to me was basically like a very early version of Facebook because you have a friends page. So only the people you follow, right, you can see all their posts. So every day that's what I do, right? Like how now we just scroll Facebook, right, for all our friends' posts. That's what I used to do on LiveJournal. So I go on LiveJournal, whether I'm updating or not, I'll just scroll my friends' page. So everybody is posting their daily blogs, so I'll read that, comment on it and all that.
Sounds familiar.
Yep. And there are also groups. So actually I used to be like part of the Manchester United group. I was actually one of the very active admins on the global Manchester United fan group and all that on LiveJournal. So it was a very active community, and I got to know a lot of people who I still keep in touch until today from the LiveJournal community. But just that later then, once we had Facebook and other social media all came out, then LiveJournal kind of lost its traction, right? And I think at one point they made it open. Like, when they opened it up, everybody came in and just became very saturated. Yep. I think like to me, I kind of lost interest in blogging when the monetization started. So before that, there was no... this concept of monetization for blogging wasn't there. Yeah, it was very small, but at some point, people just started doing paid posts and all these promotions and ads, and so it just became like people just started writing content for money, right? Yeah. So there's no longer people writing genuinely for the sake of writing.
No longer like a passion thing.
Yeah, or for sharing information or sharing their thought. It's more like I'm going to write something so that I can make money. So at that point, I kind of lost interest in blogging, which is, blogging is still great. You can make a lot of money. I'm sure you have also made a lot of money through blogging.
I wish I said I made a lot of money, but yeah,
some money, lah.
Yeah, some money. Yeah.
Yeah, but personally, as a personal blogger, I kind of lost interest during that point, right? But yeah, LiveJournal to that point was really good, and eventually I also started my agency and then grew it.
When do you start Pixaworks?
2006.
2006.
Yeah,
actually, it was around the same time.
Yeah. So 2006 because I was already doing some freelance work before that. So I was working full time, but I wasn't in the creative industry at all, right? So I used to be a remote sensing engineer. So I was doing satellite imaging, maps, GIS.
How did you veer off course?
Yeah, so that's what by training I'm a remote sensing engineer. So I used to work as a remote sensing and GIS engineer long before drones. So it was all satellite and airborne stuff. But as a freelance thing, I've always been like doing on my own, like graphic design, web design. I've been building like HTML websites since I was in like Form 4, Form 5 when I first got my first computer at home. So that was always like a personal thing, right? But I never thought that would be a profession someday. Even when I was going to uni, right, I didn't pick like computer science or design or programming as an option. I wanted to be a scientist, so remote sensing was a better option. But just eventually kind of came back to that, right? Because that was a skill that I always had, and I was doing like freelance projects, websites for friends, and all that. So at some point when I thought I'll run my own business, this was the easiest one, because especially when you don't have a privileged background, you don't have lots of money, you don't have trust fund where you can invest into a business.
Exactly.
I mean, mapping business is out of question, right? It's going to cost you millions just to get it up and running. So design business seemed to be logical. So agency, okay, let's start with designing websites. Start charging money for people, posters, flyers. So that's how it began. And as a freelancer, then once I realized my freelance income was good enough to sustain, hey, why not just go full time and scale it up, right? So that's how the whole Pixaworks brand started.
So the question is, as a business and at the time even freelance, how do you prospect? How do you get customers? I mean, we had no idea, right? As a creative, we just wanted to do the creative
also for
work.
me, right? Because I'm not from that background, right? I never worked in an agency, so I didn't have any contacts, right? So I never worked in the agency. I was not from the industry, so I didn't even study like design or computer programming in university. So even my peers are all like engineers. They're like mapping engineers, right?
Yeah.
So I don't have a network of people who are from this industry. So for me, it was always a challenge. That's how I got into community building, right? Because Webcam KL was probably one of the best, because that time there was the most active community. It was mostly led by our friend Wuhan that time, right? So that was I think at that point was the biggest community where they were doing a lot of physical meetups, monthly meetups. Once a month we used to meet up at Menara UOA in Bangsal. We had I think like 40-50 people every month. That's how it began. I think it eventually grew to like 300 people a month. But that's where it began, right? That's where I started meeting a lot of people. I also attended other events, but I think that was probably the main one, right?
So you got referrals for business through those meetups, or?
I think there was more to learning. Business-wise, not that much, I would say. But I learned a lot on how to get business, how to get leads and all that. But on my own, as usual, I think like all of us, right? Start with family and friends.
Yeah, that helps.
So I mean, even if the family and friends don't give you projects, right? Sometimes they will recommend projects and all that. But mine started very slow, very organic. So it's like one client, two clients. Two clients will recommend you to another two clients. So from day one, my business has always been referral. That's how I also preferred. Although we do marketing and advertising and all that, I never really did heavy marketing for myself. It's more like I do a project, I get recommended, I recommend it. So I always realized that was easier to close the deal when you get recommended by a client to another client.
Yeah, word of mouth is very powerful.
Very powerful.
And those days, social media was non-existent, right?
Yeah,
you didn't really have
very
social
new
media.